A piece of news which bodes bad for Britain as it struggles to leave the European Union. New figures show there has been a surge in the number of public sector workers relying on charity handouts to make ends meet. According to the statistics, police officers, nurses, and teachers are receiving charitable grants at a higher rate than ever because they are struggling to pay the rent and provide for their children. Britain's opposition Labour Party has jumped on the report, calling the figures utterly shameful. Meanwhile, the Liberal Democrats say it's appalling that public sector staff are begging for money. Before Brexit, the UK economy is not doing well. The question is if Britain will be better off after leaving the EU.
Remember, this is a very ideologically committed government, and they decided, as did people in Europe, that austerity was the way out. And for them, austerity means cutting back on public expenditure, regardless of what the public expenditure is. So you have private opulence, you have business people making more money than ever before, but because the government had decided to reduce the so-called deficit, they cut back on public servants' pay. And this is in addition to the general decline in salaries and pay for working people across the Western Europe since Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher.
To further complicate the situation, figures released by the Office for National Statistics show Britain's economy grew at a slower rate than first thought in the final 3 months of 2017. The office revised down its estimate for UK growth in the fourth quarter to 0.4%, following an earlier estimate of 0.5%, and missing economists' forecasts that the rate would be unchanged. As a result, the UK has been left lagging further behind other major economies as it prepares to leave the EU. The downward revision to growth comes after the ONS published figures showing a surprise rise in unemployment in the 3 months to December.
There was a time under the Blair government, previous Labour government, that pay was rising, not as fast as for profits, but it was rising. And the Conservative government, when it was elected, basically put the brakes on. It reduced pay for real pay for civil servants, put a complete cap on public expenditure for and salaries for public workers. And at heart, this is an ideology that doesn't see the value in public expenditure. It wants to privatize everything.
The surge in the number of people relying on charity handouts shows that the country has not fully recovered from its financial crisis, which also affected many other European nations and even the US. This comes after years of wage freezes and pay rises below inflation for public sector workers.
Well, it has been affecting the services. I mean, the firemen, the fire brigades were reduced, and that almost certainly must have contributed towards the Grenfell disaster, the tower disaster. And I mean, the Conservatives have managed to make the police look quite rebellious. They've been cutting back on pay and police numbers for so long that the police chiefs and constables, who used to be amongst the most conservative people in Britain, are now railing against the government and appearing in public complaining about the cuts.
Many in and outside Britain are worried that the poor economic performance of the country, as well as its economic problems, will affect the society and the services, most notably the police. What is unclear is Britain's situation after it leaves the EU. A hard Brexit will put further strain on the country's economy with unknown consequences, while a soft divorce will also have its own ramifications. Divisions in Britain over Brexit itself are also deep, and the country is nearly divided over the issue.